Sorry that took so long. All right, so fungi. Let's begin. All right, so what are fungi? Fungi are often used in cooking. So fungi are heterotrophic. They are decomposers. They are important in the cycling of nutrients in ecosystems. Also, so heterotrophic means that fungi do not make their own food. They like animals, but in fact they need to absorb all all of the nutrients. They they digest food before ingesting it. They use enzymes to break down food, but then they absorb it, just like animals. The fungi structure. Most are multicellular. There are some that are unicellular, and those with the yeast, they're made up of filaments they're called hyphae. The septate divide the hyphae into cells. The goniotic are hyphae without septae, many nuclei with no divisions. An interwoven mat of hyphae is called a mycelium. So these would be the mycelium, the reproductive structures, and the spores come out through here. So right here we have a pore, a septum, a cell wall, then a nuclei. For a septate, For a coenzymatic hypha, we have nuclei, then a cell wall. No. We have special hyphae. Parasitic and mutualistic fungi penetrate the cells of their host or symbiote. They are called Hostoria. They are specialized. They are specialized hyphae that can penetrate tissue. Mycorrhizae are mutualistic relationships between plant roots and fungi. Reproduction. Most can produce spores sexually and asexually. Sexual reproduction. Hyphae from two individuals fuse and produce a diploid spore. Asexual reproduction. Spores produced by mitosis. Yeast only reproduce asexually by budding. So let's take a look. So fungi are haploid, which means they have one. That's going to be represented by the N. They're heteroperiodic, which are unfused nuclei from different parents. Diploid, that's a 2N. So with asexual reproduction, it goes from mycelium to spore-producing structures to spores to germination, then back. And in sexual reproduction, we've got plasmogamy, which is the fusion of the cytoplasm, the heteroperiodic stage, perigamy, which is the fusion of the nuclei, there's the zygote, meiosis, spore-producing structures, spores, and germination, then the mycelium. Imperfect fungi. Many molds and yeast have no sexual stage, known as deuteromycetes or imperfect fungi. The origin of fungi evolved from a flagellated ancestor and eventually moved to the land. about the same time that plants did. Members of the clade Opisthoconsa, along with animals and protists. Animals and fungi diverged about 1.5 billion years ago. The phylogeny of fungi. So, we're going to start with the citrates, then the zygotic fungi, arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, sac fungi, and club fungi. Citromycota live in lakes and soil. They are saprobes and parasites, flagellated zoospores right here. This is the flagellated zoospore, closely related to Zygomycetes. Zygomycota, fast-growing molds, parasites, and symbionts, black-bread mold and microsporidiata. Sexual reproduction yields zygosporangium. All right, so let's take a look at this. It's going to go from the plasmogeny to the young zygosporangium to the kerigami, and it's going to be right now a diploid that goes into meiosis in dispersal and germination, mating type plus type negative, and it goes Chimtanija with haploid nuclei back to plasmogeny. Glomeromycota, formerly thought to be zygomycetes, form arbuscular mycorrhizae. 90% of all plants have symbiotic relationships with glomerosomites. Ascomycota, sac fungi, form sac-like bacilli inside ascocarps. Asexual spores equal cnida, terrestrial, marine, and freshwater. Truffles, morel mushrooms, and red bread mold. So these mushrooms are morels, and they are extremely popular to eat. These are called truffles, and truffles are extremely rare and extremely expensive. This is another mating key, basically the same as the past two that I have shown you. Basidiomycota, the club fungi. Basidium, which are their reproductive structures, have a club-like shape, like this right here. Environmental stimuli periodically causes sexual reproduction. Sexual fruiting bodies are called basidiocarps, and they often form in ring-like formations. So, these, back in the old times, it was called a fairy circle, and it was common that when mushrooms popped up like this, that it was thought that a fairy had visited. But now we know that mushrooms form in a ring because of their spore dispersal, and they decompose wood and other plant material. And again, this is basically the same thing. For one difference, so These gills are lined with basidia, and this is where the spores are released in these fungi right here, in these uh, gills. So what is the ecological importance of fungi? They are decomposers of organic material, carbon and nitrogen cycles. Pathogens are Dutch elm disease, corn smut, ringworm, athlete's foot, and yeast infections, and also black mold. Fungal relationships. They can be symbionts with plants, animals, algae, and cyanobacteria. More on mycorrhizae. 90% of plants have a symbiotic relationship with fungi, break down organic compounds in soil, and deliver minerals to roots. Mycorrhizal fungi. The hyphae grow into extracellular spaces of the root cortex. Endomycorrhizal fungi. Hyphae extend into root cell walls. Practical uses for fungi. So, how they use today? Food and drink production. Fungi are what make bread rise and what turn beer and wine into alcohol. Antibiotics and medication. Penicillin came from a mold that was found on bread. Blood pressure medication, Parkinson's and Huntington's disease treatments. That's it. Thank you for following along.